All right.
So first question comes from States FC on Twitter and as well as on YouTube. He's an independent creator as well. But he says, which USMNT player or players stock grew the most this year?
Go for it, Brian.
This year or this window?
This year.
This year. Wow.
Oh. I mean, Pepe. I mean, he's starting. How do you like? I mean, you look at where you do like where it started and where it is now. Like those memes, it's like it's I think Matt Turner.
Yep. Scally.
Scally hasn't played for the national team yet. He's been the breakout player at the club level.
That's true, but his stock has grown.
If you're going to talk about like how they are as players or the role within the national team, it's a little different. I mean, Scally's on my list of like breakout players, but on the national team, problem is with Scally, it's like unless they move him to the left side, he's a backup option really at this point.
Behind Yedlin and Dest.
Well,
yeah, I mean, even if he takes over Yedlin, it's Dest. He's not going to pass on the right side unless they do something like move Dest to a winger, which I don't think is going to happen on the national team level.
Well, I mean, we've also seen this entire qualifying stint where Dest will play the first and third game, and there's always somebody else available to either sub in because he doesn't play a full game, or he doesn't play at all in the second game. So the big question for Scally is whether or not he can compete over Yedlin at this point.
Yeah, and I think he can. I mean, look, again, there's always, I understand why sometimes, it's good to have a veteran on the team, and Yedlin seems like an ideal backup. Like he's a very, down to earth, popular guy, I think, and but Scally's no denying his talent. Yedlin was once there too. Look, I mean, there's a lot of guys who've done well on the national team. Musa's, Buzio, Miles Robinson, Matt Turner. I mean, these are all guys who've had great years for the national team. And like if you look at where they were New Year's Day versus where they are at Thanksgiving, it's astonishing, really.
Yeah, I'd agree. Brett, you want to read the next one?
Well, yeah.
Sub questions. All right.
So Chris Gary says, with Lletget rolled on and McKenzie riding pine throughout this whole camp, could this be a sign that De La Torre, Conrad, and Brooks being back with the national team, or perhaps other guys outside looking in?
I mean, I think the camp's going to get bigger in January again. And January is going to be interesting too, because it's, MLS players are going to be in their off season, although that's not necessarily going to, phase Canada too much. Although, because they have their own core. De La Torre, I always thought Brooks would be back. De La Torre, I'm not as bullish on. I still think I need to see a little bit more from De La Fuente. Just think he's going to get back into the picture right away. I think he's very talented dribbling. When I watch him, sometimes I think he dribbles into problems too much. You kind of saw, they were very eager on him at the start of the first window. I mean, he started the first game against El Salvador.
Yeah.
And then I don't. It kind of tailed off quickly for him from there. Whether whether something happened in practice or whether the film revealed exactly what they want him to do. He's very much an aggressive dribbler. I don't know if they think he's going to help with the combination play. We'll see. De La Torre's continuing to have a nice season for Heracles. He had a nice game over the weekend.
He did.
Struggled the game, right before break.
I know. Yeah,
but the thing with De La Torre is what's interesting is, he kind of, because he's new, people like he'll be 24 at the end of the cycle, at the end of the season. Sorry, and this is really still his he's only a year and 3 months into being a regular starter at a regular level. You know, and at this age, you wonder how much more up is he going to be, or is he really at his peak right now?
Well, here's
I
the
don't
thing,
know.
Brian. Brian, here's the thing I noticed when I watched De La Torre play. He gets the ball, he dribbles past 2 or 3 guys, just blows through the line, and then the final third, he just doesn't have the last pass. He doesn't. I'm not, saying.
No, I've always liked. I like Luca. You know, and
yeah, I do too. It's just.
Yeah, I think
it's
he
something
draws
that's
fouls
missing.
and you know, and he's pretty good defensively. I mean, he's a good player for you know, a slightly below average Eredivisie team. And that's good.
But is he better than Lletget?
Yes, I was going to say he's not the answer. You know, he's not the savior.
See, the thing,
Lletget,
I mean, people really, you know, don't like Lletget. I mean, I think I like him better than most. I understand what he sees on the team. You know, I thought he, you know, the leash is always quick with Lletget. Like, he has a great game against Honduras, and then has a bad game against Panama, and then it's the bad poor performances with him kind of linger a little bit more. I mean, I don't know. I think the thing with, you know, eventually, you know, he's pushing 30 now. It's been a very difficult year.
And 2 knee surgeries.
Let's see.
Yeah.
Derek and I have been really good. I've been really high on Lletget for most of his career.
Look, he's always been a very technical, tactical player. I think with him, you know, going to the Premier League, trying, you know, when he did at a young age, like you can even see that, like even on his best day, he's not gonna. Sam Allardyce it's not gonna work. I mean,
yeah, exactly.
You know, it's tough, and obviously off the field, it's just been, you know, a brutal year for him when you realize how close he was with his sister, and I think there was a delayed response with him. You know, and then they don't make the playoffs. I don't know. I mean, I think, you know, he's kind of teeters on the edge. It's easy. You could see him getting overpassed, but, you know, he does pop up and do good things, you know, and then when he has a bad game, people forget about the good things he does. But yeah, I could see him getting past, but problem is that what I think with everyone, and this is what writers do, what I do, and fans do, and they assume, like, well, in January, this guy's going to get overtaken. I mean, has there ever been a time when everyone's all available? Like, seriously, like, everyone's got like, no, it's like, the answer is no. Like, people are like, well, you know, by January, Gio Reyna will be back. Well, maybe let's grant so that maybe there's a chance that's going to happen. But just like the odds that everyone's all going to be 100% healthy, that everyone thinks is, and that's hence the need for depth and consistency and you know, and having, you know, and being there. So it just doesn't happen, you know. It's like it doesn't. You know, it's so we'll see. I
mean,
you know, everything's up in the air, and I think it's a good, you know, it'll be interesting to see, you know, how things shape up in the off season, because, you know, there's a lot of you know, a lot could happen between now and then. I mean, between Europe and now.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is there's going to be some guys who are going to get injured, and so shit's going
to happen. And Tyler Adams will be there if he's healthy, as long as he's not injured. But he needs to play better. You know, it's like for the U.S. team to be at their best, and you know, and there's a lot of questions right now. And you know, Ricardo Pepi, whatever move he makes, you know, it's going to be. It's gonna be like, okay, is he gonna go to someplace where he's actually gonna play, or is he gonna go on a loan, be a part of a loan army, or what are going to be the steps between when he moves and when he starts to play? And you know, it's and even if he stays at Dallas, who's gonna be their coach? You know, it's like there's all kinds of things that, like, you know, at key positions that are just kind of up in the air.
Yeah. Well, speaking of that, Greg,
you just jumped right into the next question.
Yeah. Ask which American MLS players do you think get a move to Europe in January? We just discussed Pepe, but why not Miles Robinson as well?
Who?
Miles
Robinson. You know, he's 24. I think it's certainly possible, and you never know. Like, Europe's a big place. Something could happen. There's could always be loans too. I mean, what happens if Walker Zimmerman does what Jordan Morris did last year? I think, one player that I think that no one talks about, but people should be talking about more, because I even wrote him off because I thought he was good when he first started, then he had some bad years. But another reclamation project by the Rapids in Austin Trusty. I mean, he was one of the reasons why the team finished in atop the West, and he's a left-footed, strong central defender. Like, those tend to raise some eyebrows. He checks a lot of boxes. So, and I heard some of Wizards Smart saying, well, Sam Vines will never get a move to Europe, and then he does. It's
Right.
All bets are kind of off. I mean, it's some people move abroad because there's no room for him here. Like Ian Hartz, we were just talking about him. He was waived, and now he moved abroad because he didn't have a job here, and now he's going to be the Scottish, probably maybe the Scottish team of the season. So I don't know. I mean, look, Justin Che, I think will get that move to Bayern, but is that I don't know if that's the best thing for him, because I don't know if you want him going to Bayern's U23s, or if they have a loan that's going to make sense. Loans are very tricky. I think Chris Richards was very lucky in how he got his loan, because the manager for Bayern's U23s became the manager for Hoffenheim, so there was a big deal of familiarity to send him on loan there too. So that was lightning in a bottle. You can't, like, that's very tough to come by. So I don't know. Some moves, some players you just don't want to make moves at this point in their career. But yeah, I think there's going to be some. There's always going to be some.
Couldn't Miles Robinson be a major piece for just about any championship club? I mean, he has proven it by now. He's been so.
Well, look, by the way, we did mention the guy who I followed all season long and watched the other day in person. Kyle Duncan's going to do well in Belgium. He's going to Ostende. Yeah, and that's not the biggest move. That's not like a home run move. That's a small. Look, I mean, just playing in Belgium, it doesn't put you on the national team. You got to do well. I mean, but I think he's going to do well.
We are seeing a lot of these smaller clubs getting good deals.
I mean, that's a free
bringing
transfer,
American.
So that's a little different. I mean,
I get it.
Chris Mueller's moving. We already know he's moving, but I don't think that's going to change anything for him on the national team perspective. His best hope for the national team is that there's a move after that. But at that point, so like I said, there's moves to Europe, and then there's moves to Europe.
I know, yeah, exactly. But it is interesting that so many European clubs now are like going, you know what, we get a bargain, we bring in this American. And you look at Venezia, it's sort of the same thing. It's like we're getting bargain deals here.
Yeah, the big one was when Gladbach came in for Scally the way they did. Early. I mean, $4 million for a guy who was only getting occasional
minutes,
token minutes here and there for NYCFC. I mean, Tinnerholm was good, and even Scally told me Tinnerholm was a very positive force in his development, playing behind him. He taught him a lot, but it's just like, it shows you when even they're willing to spend $3-4 million for a young guy, it's pretty impressive. That doesn't even really necessarily play, so it shows you all bets are on the table. It's
what's up though with Caden Clark in New York? What's up with that? Why is he suddenly only coming off the bench the last 10 minutes? Or
things. There were some struggles after his appendectomy, right before the Gold Cup. So he was forced out of the lineup because of appendicitis. And then when he came back, maybe there was a lot of things with Struber that I didn't necessarily completely understand. Like, they spent a lot of money on bringing in Frankie Amaya, and they didn't play him. They spent a transfer fee to bring in Cam Harper, and they didn't really play him. And because they didn't their system didn't really utilize wingers. And then, and then on top of it, so when when Caden Clark was still getting adjusted from his appendectomy, the team started to win, come August, and they went on a very big run. And guys like Caceres were playing really well, and Yearwood was playing well. And as a coach, when you're going on a playoff push, you're going to go with who's winning.
I get it. Yeah.
And you don't want it to, as opposed to a guy that has a lot of hype, a lot of talent. But if the other guys are winning, you're just not going to change it.
I guess what it did for me was like I look at him going to Leipzig now, and I'm like, man, just loan his ass to Salzburg right away. Because
I mean, he might stay in New York. It wouldn't surprise me in one more year. I mean, it wouldn't be the worst thing for him either. I mean, because also next year, let's face it, he's also going to be playing a lot with the U20s. They could release him for those cycles and get him at the, he could be a big part of getting the team to the U20 World Cup and the Olympics. And then come the summer, at least he plays the first half with New York, then he can kind of reevaluate the situation. But he plays a similar role to Brendan Aronson there. And so I don't necessarily know if I don't think he's going to start over Brendan Aronson. So if Struber thinks that he could start in New York again with a full preseason now that he's healthy, as opposed to being a backup for Brendan whenever him leaving is still a little speculative. There's some smoke there, but there's no fire. So, I don't think he's going to play at Leipzig, right? So yet. So, I think, New York hasn't been the worst place in the world. I mean, if he could develop like Christian Caceres did, who's been a very good example of, South American development in this league. When the league imports these young South Americans to help them reach their potential, Caceres has done that in a similar role. So, we'll see. I think Caden Clark will be fine. He's talented.
How about you take Caden Clark, you send him to to Leipzig, and then you swap him for Brendan Aronson, and you just send him down to Salzburg, and you send Aronson up to Leipzig. Wouldn't that be perfect? That'd be perfect.
I mean, it's up to Jesse. It's up to,
it's all in the family.
Is Aronson going to be playing? I'm not necessarily. I don't know if Aronson's going to go to Leipzig in the end of the day.
Wow.
I think he might be one of these guys who Salzburg sells elsewhere. Maybe not. We'll see.
I mean, it is all in the family, so it's really up to them. So it's like anyhow, we won't.
But they rate them. They like having guys in New York if they can develop. So it's. I don't necessarily think Caden Clark has outgrown New York yet.
No, but he's supposed to go over there. I mean, that's the
plan.
Is,
but
it's the plan.
Nothing's ever. When you're dealing with an 18-year-old, 6 months from now is like it's not a plan; it's a guideline at that point. It's like things change so fast with 18-year-olds for the better or for the worse. It's like
I get it. I guess if I were Kay Clark, I just want more of a plan than a guideline. But hey, that's me.
I think you dominate, you play well, you get your league's best 11, then everything comes into fruition. It just doesn't happen on its own.
All right, here's the last question of the night, Brian, because we are on an hour here. Last question of the night, and then we'll ask you what you're up to. Rumors are swirling that Pulisic may go to Barcelona over the summer. Do you think that's a good move for him? I'll let you answer that first.
What it is? It's like I think Christian Pulisic can play anywhere.
Mm-hmm. I do too.
I think I'd take a healthy Christian Pulisic at Chelsea, versus, like having him healthy is so much more important than what club he goes. It's the cart before the horse, wanting to know what club Christian Pulisic is going to be playing. And so it's like, you want to see these nagging injuries that always seem to pop up with them too, are the bigger careers, not just Chelsea. I think at the end of the day, if he's healthy, he's fine. He's going to play at Chelsea. He's already won a Champions League. It's like you can't really go on. I mean, nothing else is really a step up from a Champions League winner. It depends. How is Barcelona going to do under the new regime? Is Barcelona's finances going to be under control by that point too? Where you can, it's like this is not your typical Barcelona funk right now. They have a lot more questions. So I don't know. I don't discount it. Where's Barcelona gonna get all this money for? I mean, they were so like under the gun over the summer. It's
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's possible, but it's the furthest. I think everyone's just hoping he stays healthy.
Yeah, exactly. Brett, were you gonna add something to that or no?
Okay. If you have any more questions, I'm here.
I would say, but I think Barcelona is hoping to get all that money from Superliga. So,
okay, I'm just gonna say if Dest can start at right wing for Barcelona, then Pulisic can start at left wing for Barcelona. I don't see an issue there. I really don't. And as you said, it's really about whether he's healthy or not.
Well,
That's it.
I mean, one huge club or another huge club, you're still playing at a huge club. It's and it's like, yes, we all know Barcelona's style and how they play, but they're an organization that has more questions than answers right now. So
to Brian's point earlier is Pulisic can go anywhere and play. Whether it's in Liga, whether it's in EPL, Serie A, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
And whether you transfer from Chelsea to Barcelona, I don't think it really matters. I think he'll continue to do well for Chelsea as long as he's there. And you always have the question of basically how Tuchel sees him, at any given moment. He can look at Pulisic and say, well, I see him as the super sub option, whereas Pulisic wants to start. He wants to play. And he doesn't want to come in for 30 minutes here and there. And that could cause a stink there. It might not necessarily be just playing for Chelsea or playing for Barcelona. It might be, I want to be on the field. I want to play more.
I mean, it's when you're at these clubs and the players on the bench are so good and the starting players are also good. It doesn't take a lot to get benched because there's always someone pushing you. It's like, there's no such thing as a guaranteed starter at a lot of these clubs, unless you're really, at another, one of the best in the game. But even when you're one of the best in the game, I mean, you see some of these great players still end up on the bench for stretches, maybe a month or two here and there, because someone else is just playing better, and there's so much talent on the best bench. Yeah, I mean, this is the job you expect when you go to these big clubs, and it's going to be no different if you're at Bayern Munich or Barcelona or Real Madrid or Chelsea or Man City. This is just the life of what you get to sign up for. I don't think you're ever nailed into a super sub role because you're so good. You're playing for these teams. You could start, but it's always who's ever best at the given moment.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so we'll end this show by giving our points prediction for the next window, because we've been going at this for an hour and 5 minutes. So, Brian, we got 3 games. We got El Salvador at home, Canada away, and Honduras at home. How many points are we expecting out of that window?
7.
7. I think that's pretty fair. 3 wins or a couple wins and a tie.
Look, I think Canada, as great as they played, they have a very difficult final 2 windows. 4 of the 6 games that they play are away, and they have to do Central America game, Canada game, Central America game, each of those. So that means they assemble in Canada, and then they go to South America, they go to Central America to play, come back to Canada, then go back to Central America to finish out. I mean, that's for both windows. They're not going to be in good shape for their home games either. So, I think even though there's the high of that Mexico game, and on top of it too, they a lot of their MLS players that make up their bench and their core, they're going to be in the off season too. It's a tough. They got their work cut out for them in the last 2 windows. So I think the U.S. will be fine at home, and then in Canada, it's going to be tough. Canada does not have it easy.
No, they don't. So tell us, before we exit the show tonight, tell us a little about what people should be looking for what you're working on right now, coming up down the road, right down the road.
I'm trying to work on this piece on Amir Richardson, young U.S. player at American National. He has American multinational, like 4 passports, playing at Le Havre in France. His dad was an NBA star. You know, I'm going to be speaking to him and his dad. I'm going to be trying to do, hopefully in the weeks ahead, an interview with Mike Ibarras on the U20 team, about the U20 team, and some national team interviews, and also some, you know, the Bosnia game coming up, and MLS playoffs, and like I say, interviews and stories when I can break them.
Remember when my mom did the translation for Timmy Chandler for your
that was a long
articles?
time ago. Yes, your German mother. I was stuck for a translator to speak with him, and Jimmy's English was okay. He felt comfortable, but the club demanded I have an interpreter.
Jesus,
so
that's so weird. And it was like at 5:30 in the morning or something weird like that. And my mom's like, yeah, his fucking accent, his Hessen accent, was it Hessen? Yeah, his Hessen accent is horrible. It's horrible. I can barely understand this guy sometimes. And that's when
he
I
started
woke
over the weekend too. Yeah, he's still playing.
He's been playing pretty regularly, Timmy. So, no, I mean, more recently he's been playing regularly.
Yeah, he was on the bench for a long time, but now he's
like
kind
a
of back
year
playing. And you know, wild. I hope he writes a book, because I think it'd be probably pretty interesting for him to talk about a lot of the different paths and routes he's taken.
God, yeah, so weird. I mean, isn't that where we found out he doesn't like flying? I can't remember what that interview was, but I mean, I don't remember at the time. I remember you calling me at work and you were like, okay, is this correctly translated? And then I called my mom and she's like, yes, that's correctly translated. And you're like, okay, cool. Just had to make sure before I posted it up there. It was a great time to be alive.
And then next thing you know, he's bailing on the Gold Cup team. And
I know.
All because of that interview.
And we tried so hard to be pro Timmy. We were so pro Timmy for a long time. Anyhow, Brian, thanks for coming on the show. We're going to have you back, I'm sure. You know, I don't know when exactly, because this whole, you know, we'll see how the schedule works out, but we're going to have you back again. And thanks for coming on and being, well, you know, putting up with us and just being a great guest as usual. Until
anytime, guys. It's my honor and pleasure, and we'll do it again soon. You have my number, so hit me up anytime, guys.
No kidding. Don't go off air quite yet, but we're going to say good night from the Straight Red Card.